Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. My name is James Batchelor and today we are talking about the launch of the Automotive Transformation Group. Now, last month we reported Autofutura and GForces were merging to transform the sales process for OEMs, for dealers, financiers and consumers. And the creation of the Automotive Transformation Group is the result of the merger. Now, to discuss more about this, about the new company and how it aims to help dealers and the wider new and used car markets is CEO Christian Erlandson and Tim Smith, Chief Revenue Officer. Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Glad to be here.
Lovely, lovely to have the pair of you on. Now, just before we talk about the company, and it's big news for the industry, all of this, I'd just like to get the pair of your views really on e-commerce, in the new and used car markets, if I may. Now, many dealers tell us that customers at the moment they're doing a portion of their purchase online, but they're still visiting the showroom to complete physically, and the number of customers actually buying a car fully online is still small at the moment. So are you sort of aiming to make it a bit easier and more attractive for people to complete a purchase fully online?
Yeah, I'll pick this one up. Yeah, absolutely, James. I mean, look, this is a journey. I think we consistently relay that message. We don't expect everyone to go online immediately and buy cars, and we know that people like to visit the dealership. We know that test drives are obviously still an important part of the process. But I think what we're stating is that there is a mix of attitudes. There's a mix of desires. Some people definitely don't want to engage in what we'd say is the traditional or legacy-based sales process of buying a new or a used car. So for them, the option of having an e-commerce journey, fully automated end-to-end process from start to finish, including the finance, is absolutely critical for a modern car retailer. And that's not just the likes of Kazoo and Kazam and Cinch. It's important for every single car retailer to have that ability. But of course, that is mixed in terms of the hybrid model. So maybe some people starting the journey online, completing it in the showroom. But whilst we're seeing relatively low single-digit kind of conversion rates from a full bore online process, it is increasing year on year.
Yeah. And let's face it, on manufacturer websites and on dealer websites, if it's simply labeled and it's simple to do, then more customers are probably going to start to make the switch, aren't they? And they'll probably do more of the process. They probably get to a certain point at the moment and then switch off. But the easier it is, and if you can get across the sense of trust, importantly, then more customers are going to proceed to the next steps, aren't they?
100%. If you look at the way that society has engaged with e-commerce over the last 20 or so years, it has been a steady increase. Post-COVID, it was about 30% of the UK's entire expenditure from retail goods was online, and that's grown from the last 20 years where it was sort of 1%, 2%, 3%. So it's steady over that period, and obviously the pandemic actually caused it to spike and increase by maybe 4 or 5%. But we're seeing, in terms of automotive retail, there's pent up demand, there's latent demand for this process to be resolved. There's definitely a desire for consumers to be engaged with and engage online with car manufacturers and retailers. And that's really what we're seeing. I think we're seeing the industry starting to catch up.
Christian, why do you think the motor traders has been a few steps behind other industries in this shift to e-commerce?
There's probably a number of factors why it could be behind. Probably a lot of it has to do with the size of the transaction, the complication related to the transaction, and it's been manual for so long, right? And people are used to that journey. But now, as Tim rightly highlighted, so much of what we purchase is e-commerce and online enabled. I think we'll see an acceleration of the e-commerce journey in this space because it's been so far behind. The tools that are available to help speed up the journey and to get customers more, I guess, more willing to participate in this way, and they're used to it in everything else they purchase. The speed of which we're going to see the transformation in the group is going to be incredibly fast. And you look at just with 1% of the market moving to e-commerce is an enormous amount of opportunity. And you see now dealerships have woken up and the OEMs. It was very fascinating for me. I started in Autofutura about a year ago, just at the start of COVID. And the response to COVID was dealerships close and manufacturers stop manufacturing. And you can't stop the consumer demand, right? The consumers want to purchase this way. The dealerships and the OEMs will find a way to match that, the consumer demand.
Yeah, yeah, and I also think talking about sort of traditional ideas of buying a car, I think the whole sales process is still wrapped up in people buy a car lump sum, whereas most people, they buy a car through PCP. Increasingly, we're going to be seeing people opting for a car subscription, and let's say that's only £400 a month, for example. It's far easier to do that online, isn't it? And the sums of money we're talking about are the sums of money which people are perfectly happy spending at Argos or John Lewis or Marks and Spencer or wherever. So it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, isn't it? So
I think there's a big part of it is that up to now, probably a lot of the online has mimicked what's happened traditionally. So you digitize the sales stages and the process that's typically occurred traditionally, but just try and virtualize that. I think as the technology, as the ideas and the formats are socialized, that's going to change. And I think there's going to be steps that are going to be pulled out of the sales process. When you think about the integrations that are starting to really occur, you see finance companies starting to open up their information, being able to inject and pull out relevant information based on someone's ownership, based on someone's affordability, all of the key metrics and criteria you need in order to stack deals. These things are going to change the format and the way that the sales process actually occurs. So not only socialization of e-commerce and buying cars online, it's actually going to change that process as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Christian, I mean, you started 12 months ago. I mean, what a time to start, really. Congratulations on making it this far. I think we should all pat ourselves on the back, shouldn't we? Now, some dealers have been telling us, over the past 18 months, that the catalyst in digital sales, I mean, some say we've jumped forward by 10 years in as little as 18 months. I mean, do you see that too? Or is it bigger or is it smaller than that? Either way, it's been enormous, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's a great question, James. I mean, that's one of the reasons behind the name of Automotive Transformation Group, right? We wanted a name that was going to be relevant in 2025 or 2030, but also something that suggests, today, the here and now, what is relevant to the customers. And I'd say we have definitely skipped a number of years, fast forwarded over the last year. Part of that has been the technology has rolled out, though, is in most cases on top of old technology. I think there's still a way to go in the industry to streamline the tech stack that's out there. But probably one of the biggest changes was a mindset and a willingness to go with where the customers want to go and how they like to purchase.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, because I mean, Tim and I have been talking about this for probably nigh on a decade, really, and it's not, buying a car online is nothing new. It's just that now for consumers, they've suddenly realized that they can do it, and there are brands like Kazoo, etc., have come along. and have given the impression of how simple it is. And it has been around for a while, hasn't it? It's just that mindset that's changed.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, there's a lot of press and a lot of attention given to Cazoo, and obviously that, when you look at it in terms of the reality of how many units they're shifting, and then you actually look at, for example, some of the super groups and the number of transactions that they commit monthly online, and then you look at the valuation, there's a huge amount of hype around e-commerce. Reality is that this is about shifting tin as efficiently as possible, meeting consumer demands. So a lot of that expertise that's already in the industry just needs to be switched and transferred, I think, in terms of just adopting to, I suppose, a slightly new era in terms of using digital tools and just, again, engaging with consumers. We've done it for years in this sector, but it's been face-to-face. This is just a slightly different medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian, I mean, when people talk about completing a car purchase online, I mean, most presume that is just for new cars, don't they? But I mean, the potential for a fully digital used car experience, I mean, it's enormous, isn't it?
Absolutely is. And seeing what has happened because of COVID, the strength of the used car valuations, that's where we look to benefit from what we've done in the group in bringing together the data-led retention focus from Autofutura aligned with the e-commerce tech of GForces to bring that together, that full omni-channel experience, and not forget about the used cars. Absolutely, that's a huge piece of the market, and that is going to be strong for the foreseeable future.
And, you know, let's face it, at the moment, dealers are struggling with supply, they're struggling with demand, they're struggling to get a hold of cars. And if a fully online services could actually make dealers' lives easier, couldn't it, really?
Yeah, it could. There's a problem though. If demand and supply, you actually have to have the vehicles. So really, e-commerce, digital is just a set of tools to enact within that marketplace. That's really what it is. And our job is to provide the sharpest set of tools to the market in order to make our customers' lives easier and more efficient, essentially. If there's a shortage of supply and too much demand, prices obviously go up. We've got tools that obviously allow our customers to act on deals and to move vehicles potentially quicker, get them on websites faster, be able to promote them across a whole plethora of the marketplace. So obviously that efficiency should drive an ability to react and be a bit more flexible. But that flexibility and that reaction, that speed of movement, that's always one of I think the mindsets and key differentiators between winners and losers. And it's not just down to the technology, although that can obviously help.
Christian, I mean, obviously our viewers are very familiar with the name GForces. Some may not be that familiar with Autofutura. I mean, can you just give us a little sort of overview of the company? And of course, you've been there for 12 months as well. So what have you been seeing and what have you been experiencing?
Sure. Autofutura is similar history. It's been around to GForces, and then it's been around for 20 years, privately owned, and spent the first 15 years really focused around providing residual values in the fleet industry, and saw the opportunity from the retention side of things, and has been absolutely focused on that for the 5+ years. And you know, we really saw the opportunity to bring the companies together. The benefits are enormous when you're looking at just the online journey of the customers and the data side of Autofutura. So we've been spending most of our time working with financiers and helping them with their book. You know, how do they maintain to hold on to their customers? It should be a lot easier to hold on to a customer than to find new ones. And together with what we've now created is looking at that life cycle of the customer. It's not just about finding new customers, your retention from the moment you purchase. It's taking them through that life cycle for the next time they want to buy a car, and it's usually 2-3 years later.
I think
Keeping them in that. And earlier you mentioned, sorry Tim, one second, around the purchase. I think the purchase and where things are going is there's going to be other forms of activity as far as, you know, commerce enabling customers after the purchase of the car to buy new services, where you'll be purchasing them in the car as you want to go along, right? That's already happening today with certain brands.
I think if I go back to that word efficiency, a lot of expenditure in the sector, obviously on advertising, an immense amount of marketing is really about acquisitional marketing. It's about trying to find new customers. That's great. But if you can be really efficient about keeping hold of your customers, if you can market them at the right time with the right offer, you can actually be very, very efficient in terms of the amount of money that you save with manufacturer offers, in terms of the scale from a manufacturer perspective. And also, I think the other thing is, as I say, reducing the amount potentially that you need to spend in terms of marketing to find those more customers. Using, you know, Autofutura product set, and obviously from Chrysalis as well, you're seeing retention rates in certain circumstances of about 50% of customers are being sent the right marketing materials at the right time and with personalized offers. So instead of a blanket £1,000 £1,000 discount, for example, it's absolutely at the right time, right place, and then massive savings. So you link that with e-commerce. Oh yeah, buy here, click this button. That's where there's massive scale and massive benefit in terms of joining the companies together.
Yeah. Well, you sort of answered my next question, really, Tim, which was what has been the sort of the attraction of partnering with with Autofutura, really, because, you know, and I think the important point is, you know, GForces customers are going to remain GForces customers, aren't they? You are partnering, but you've got your own customers as well, and they're going to remain separate in some ways.
Yeah, 100%. The critical thing for us as a group is to maintain continuity and consistency. You know, both companies have got a good track record. We do deliver good service. It can always be better, but we do deliver good service. And I think it's critical for us to maintain that, and for our customers to feel that they're still receiving the same attention. We've got the same account managers or account teams working around them. But where we have the benefits in terms of merging the companies is introducing new technologies, new solutions, new services. And these are hopefully going to be add-ons. And you see the benefit, we have to prove them, obviously. But we're quite confident as a group in terms of our roadmap and the products that we're bringing to bear. And we think that's where the value's gonna lie for both companies' customers. Yeah.
Now, Christian, you made an interesting point earlier on about customers, you know, buying add-on services in the future. This is one big thing which dealers are going to have to grapple with, really, isn't it? That it's this old-fashioned notion of a customer just buys a car and that's it, is gone, really, isn't it? You know, it's the importance of keeping a customer, you know, keeping a customer in the future, really, isn't it? Because the whole buying and ownership process of especially new cars is going to change quite considerably, isn't it?
I think about it in terms of how you buy a lot of things today. Look at it as a service, right? You buy subscriptions, right? The total subscription economy, they say, is worth 8 trillion. Everything that we purchase today, if it's not a subscription, it will be. There's a path to get there, though. This is not going to happen overnight. We're dealing with a heavily regulated industry, but we're already starting to see, you know, this happen. It's fascinating. it allows it to be a lot more consumer centric than before.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we all know, a few car manufacturers are saying, they have a purely online sales future. They're not going to do things in a traditional way. It's going to be purely online. And we know agency sales, e-commerce is going to be a big part of that as well. I mean, looking ahead to the next 10 years or so, probably a difficult question to answer, but looking ahead to the next 10 years, I mean, what kind of proportion of sales could be purely digital, do you think?
This is the old crystal ball.
Yeah.
And
Tim, go for it.
Back. More than it is now, but less than 100%. I have spoken with some manufacturers, and they're sort of saying that 75% of sales, with a 25% left over as the true legacy, but 75%, and that's within a decade. Even if it's less than that, it's just about how we meet consumer demand. I think this worry about what percentage it is, we don't need to worry about that so much. It's just about the being able to meet consumer demand. Yeah.
Anything to add, Christian?
No, Tim, I'd go with those numbers, James. I do believe it'll get close to that 75% level. And along the way, look, over the next 10 years, look at the disruption that we've had over the last year caused by the pandemic. There will be other things that will accelerate this pace of change. But we want to do it in a way that the customer, it makes sense to them. And we'll be there. That is why we brought these companies together, to improve the optimization of the car buying journey.
Yeah, and I think even in 5 years' time, probably even less than that, we won't even be having this kind of conversation. It'll just be the way people are buying, isn't it? And it won't be a point of discussion. It'll be, there are certain ways people buy cars, and there are certain other ways that people buy cars, and it won't be a conversational topic anymore. But
I agree. We'll probably move towards the conversation around experience.
Yes,
we'll all be focused around that.
Exactly. We've always got something to talk about, haven't we? So yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're going to have to leave it there for today. But Christian, Tim, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck with the partnership and the merger. It sounds really fascinating. So thanks for telling us a little bit more about it today.
Thank you, James. Really appreciate your time today. Have a good one.
Pleasure. Well, that's it for today's Car Dealer Live. Join us again very soon. Bye-bye.